Hello, hello, once again. This time I'm drawing Audie, I think her name is? I don't quite remember. This video, I was originally going to have Paige on, but I think that she exploded at some point. Like, she was just at home, and then her body was consumed in flames, and she erupted in a fireball. Or, I'm sketchy on the details, but I'm pretty sure something of that nature actually happened. But this time around, I just took... This was actually during a stream, I'll specify that. We were watching DS9, and this just so happened to be something that I was drawing at the time. I decided to draw something from Animal Crossing because that new game came out, New Horizons, I believe it's called. So I decided, why not? It's topical, so I'll draw that. That's how engagement works, doesn't it? Yes. Alright, so this is what I drew on stream. I chose Audie just because I was going through a list of all the villagers, and I decided I like the colors on this one. And I was looking around the gallery, and it's like, oh, that one picture, I think it's like the in-game poster of her? I don't really know. But I thought, well, that looks nice. I like the colors on this. So I guess I will redraw this. And that's what this is. What an amazing story, don't you think? Yes, yes. Alright, so, to disappoint you, I actually don't really like Animal Crossing. I wasn't really sure exactly how to structure this video. It's going to be a short one either way, so don't have to worry about it too much. But I thought that I would use it as sort of an opportunity to talk about some general concepts. I actually was originally going to make this a combination video about Doom Eternal as well as Animal Crossing, because that's the joke lately. And I thought, well, actually I do have something to talk about that's sort of relative between both games at the same time. So I'll sort of briefly touch on that, but... first things first, I guess, about the drawing. I've always had a hard time drawing Animal Crossing characters because they have this very specific proportionality to them. They have extremely tiny bodies that are almost not bodies at all. They're like burlap sacks that have tubes attached to them. And that's it. That's all they are. And they have these gigantic, enormous heads. Like, absolutely... Like, they're hypercephalic. Definitely. Just talk about Paige exploding. Animal Crossing characters are in a constant state of exploding their skulls. It's just happening all the time. So whenever I'm trying to translate Animal Crossing characters into a style that is not too much of an abomination, like you can even see as I'm toggling between the original image and my drawing, they're dramatically different, even though it still looks, in my opinion, kind of creepy and screwed up looking. So whenever I'm translating it into my style, those styles don't really fit together in a way. So I tend to always be really displeased with the results anytime that I draw an Animal Crossing character, because I can never quite get them out of that... It's not an uncanny valley, I guess, but I can't quite get them out of that valley of disjointed styles, I guess. I don't know how to describe it exactly. But... whenever you are moving from one style to another, you have your style, and if your style is more realistic or more cartoony, and then you try to translate another character into your style, if that character is realistic and you draw cartoony, you'll usually end up with something that lies in between those two states that does not look good, because it's not really nailing the look of either one of those styles. And the inverse is also true. And that's kind of a problem to deal with in many cases. A good way to compare that would probably be like street caricature artists. Whenever they look at you or your girlfriend as you're walking down the street and you get the guy to draw things like, oh yeah, you play tennis? No, I don't play tennis. I enjoy you playing tennis. And then he draws you playing tennis. Because that's what he's programmed himself to do. And you get the result, and it's this thing that it does not, like, caricatures do not look appealing because that's not what they're supposed to be about. But they're trying to mesh the reality of what you look like to this cartoon style that the person has developed over the years. And one way of getting around the uncanny valley aspect of that is to try to play up just how ugly the resulting drawing is, like the resulting style happens to be. Because then, if your intent is, well, it's supposed to be a mockery of the character and playful fun, then you don't have to explain why does this not look appealing, because the core premise is not supposed to be appealing. right? I don't get that luxury. So as a result, in my opinion, I'm sure everyone else will be like, nah, it's fine. But in my opinion, I wasn't really happy with the result of this drawing, but it's another case of one of those art gripes where I'm showing via example, this is why I don't care for the results of this is what I think I did wrong, and so forth and so on. So to already tell you what I probably would have tried to do differently, I probably would have just done it my ordinary style and just completely ignored the Animal Crossing look and just done whatever the hell I wanted to. And just throw in some color and general signifiers that it is the original character just to say, alright, it's the same thing. Because that's probably the easiest thing to do. It's much easier to translate characters into other styles whenever you have character elements that are easy to translate. Like someone has a funny hat, or someone has a really bushy mustache, or someone has quills on their back, or something like that. As long as they have signifier elements to their design, you can translate them to pretty much anything. As long as you have those one or two little sort of gunshots to the design where they overpower the drawing so much and signify this character, this character, this character, and this also goes for colors as well, that the eye sort of just looks at that and doesn't pay attention to the rest of it. So you can draw them in whatever style you want to, have them look almost nothing like the original character, but as long as they have those elements, you're A-okay. It's called cheating. That's the technical term. That's the industry term for that. It's just called cheating. It's called being a dick. Not many people know that. Alright, so that's probably what I would have done, just to get that out of the way. The reason why I kind of wanted to talk about this is, and I really don't want this to be a complaining video or anything, Animal Crossing is one of those games where, and I have a lot of games like this, I'm sure that'll be the joke, but it is a game in which I recognize a lot of people like this game. A lot of people enjoy this game. I don't enjoy this game. There's nothing wrong with the game. Should it be changed? No. No, none of the design elements should be changed. It should just keep doing what it's doing. But I don't like playing this game. It's just one of those things. And I sort of had a similar experience with Doom Eternal. This sort of what got me started down the road of thinking about this kind of design. With Animal Crossing, I've actually played several of the games. I briefly played one on GameCube, but not for very long. Then maybe I'm getting my timeline mixed up, because I know for certain I played New Leaf, and I played whatever the one named city is. I can't remember its full name, but it's been a while. But I have enough experience with the games to recognize, oh, the games almost never really change. The core problems that are always present in the game, to me anyways, that I would consider to be issues that keep me from playing the game, are things that define the game for what it is. Supposedly the original game was a little bit more about just living amongst these little animal people and just, oh, these animal people are cute, it's fun being here for a while. And that was just kind of it. That's what the game was about. That's actually what I wanted the game to be whenever I first started playing it. Because whenever I first started playing Animal Crossing years and years and years ago, that was my original concept for what the game supposedly was. Not that it's a dating simulator or anything like that, but it's sort of a life simulator. It's just a thing where you interact with animal people. That's what I thought anyways. But the more I played it, I realized there's almost nothing to these characters. In fact, almost no NPCs in the game have any character, aside from like Mabel and Sable, for example, or in the later games, Isabelle, things of that nature. And in the games, characters like that tend to just repeat their storylines. Like, as far as I know, it seems like I'm not an expert on Animal Crossing, of course, but it seems like the Sable and Abel storyline, for example, has had a little bit more information divulged about it in every game. Or maybe that's something I'm misremembering. But whenever I played both games almost back to back, because that's what I was doing at the time, I was sort of just experimenting with the series, I did notice that there were commonalities between the two, and they were basically just repeating the same dialogue from the prior games. And not much really changed about beyond that. So, not a lot going on in terms of like storytelling or living amongst characters in the Animal Crossing games. It's not really concerned about telling a story or anything of that nature. Not really even connecting with the NPCs on a personal level in any sort of meaningful way at all. To my surprise, the Animal Crossing games are more about the almost sort of the same functionality of MMOs in the sense of it's more about just collecting junk. This buying useless trash to put inside of a house that you don't really care about. So that whenever you invite other human players to show up, they go, oh, no, nice town, nice house, you have lots of interesting junk in your house, and then they leave, and that's what the game is. So you can probably guess as far as what about the games that I don't like happens to be. I definitely don't like that, because even in real life, I'm very Spartan. Like, my room just has nothing in it. I don't care about material items. I don't like collecting things. I don't like having a bunch of junk around the house. I'm not a collector of anything. There's just not a lot to me that isn't digital, I guess. So the desire that comes natural for some people to possess things is not something that's part of my life at all. In addition to that, of course, I just wanted the aspect of living in a village with these cute little animal characters and just seeing what sort of comedic things that they're up to. Never materialized, of course, in the games. And even in the course of experimenting with this sort of collectathon mentality that the games have, which apparently has gotten better and better or worse and worse, depending on what your perspective of it happens to be. Even with experimenting with that, I realized, oh, there's a lot of elements to this that I don't like either, because Animal Crossing was FOMO before FOMO. FOMO is, of course, fear of missing out. In MMOs, for example, you will have an event that is transpiring in real time that the developers are hosting. And if you don't log in to press a button, or to kill an enemy, or to shake a tree, or whatever it is, depending on the game, in X amount of time, then this item that you would get as a reward after doing it 50 times over 50 days, or whatever it happens to be, will just go away forever, and you will never, ever, 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 ever be allowed to have it ever. So you must show up, you must be playing your game during this time frame, or you are not allowed to collect this item in a game about collecting items. And Animal Crossing does do that to some degree. Unless you time travel. And apparently that's gotten even worse over time. Prior, whenever I was complaining about this, whenever I first experienced Animal Crossing, my main complaint was, hey, I want this thing, but it doesn't appear until apparently next year. Like, I missed it last month before I started playing. So I would actually have to wait a year just to pick up this stupid fish, or this present, or this one item that I thought would look good in my house. And, of course, fans of the game, being fans of the game, get really angry whenever you point out the obvious like that, and tell you things like, well, just time travel, idiot. It's so easy. Why are you complaining about something that doesn't have any flaws? Like, if you can't tell, I hate that argument. And by the way, this, because we were streaming, I had to pause for an inordinate amount of time. I forgot that you read at this part. So I had that issue, coming across things that I could not gain access to because they were holiday events, or they only occurred in specific months, or whenever I had the DS. Yeah, I played one on emulator because I was doing it briefly to see if I wanted to get a New Leaf. That's what it was. So whenever I was playing on a DS, I also, of course, had the issue of I'm mainly a night owl. I typically wake up during the afternoons, or I wake up in the middle of the night to most people, and I spend most of my time working during those hours. And whenever it gets to be daylight, I go to bed, because I really don't like being around people, and I have always been more of a night owl, and I have a weird sleep thing where my sleep always rotates by at least 1 hour a week, if not way more than that. Something I've never been able to control. I've had it for my entire life, blah, 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 blah. Just all these elements. So, Animal Crossing is very adamant that you need to wake up at proper hours to experience the game to its fullest. You need to be awake during the hours at which the store is open. And whenever it is time for normal people to go to bed, then the store closes, and you are not allowed to use the store. So I would have this problem of doing the things that I could do whenever it was in the middle of the night, because that's whenever I played the game. And then I would probably have to stay awake and base my real life around the video game just so that I would wait on the stores to open so that I could sell things or see if anything was even available, and sometimes things weren't available. Just if you can't tell, Animal Crossing has a lot of things like that I just do not like at all. And most of the time, the people that religiously play these kinds of games will say things like, "You're playing the game incorrectly, because you are not supposed to take it this seriously, or you're supposed to just enjoy things as they happen." But then, after about a month of the games being out, they will slowly start to complain about the exact same experiences of, well, I wanted this, but it's not available yet, or I missed out because I was doing this in real life, or I didn't plan out things correctly in my village, and now it's kind of a mess. Just things of that nature. So it's one of these... Animal Crossing is definitely one of these sort of honeymoon games, as I describe them, where the core fanbase always plays them a certain way and will defend them religiously, but at the same time, the things that you complain about that they told you to shut up about complaining about are the exact same things that they will end up complaining about whenever the honeymoon is over. And they eventually will start doing things like cheating or visiting other players' islands and attempt to circumvent these things, or setting up very specific villages that are specifically designed for players to go visit in order to obtain items that are always available there, and then leave. So they become sort of hubs for people to get around the problems that the games keep introducing. So you can see where I'm getting with this. Animal Crossing introduces a lot of things that seemingly universally people don't like, but are willing to completely ignore for whatever the reasons. So, Animal Crossing, that's the reason why I don't particularly care for Animal Crossing, is that it just has a lot of those kinds of problems. And its fan base gets very loud and very angry and vocal and almost toxic because they're so defensive of it, while at the same time readily admitting that they don't like the exact same things that I don't like about it. It's one of those games that will probably just never improve in the way that I would be happy with it improving. It's sort of got a Monster Hunter sort of issue. Except with World actually did fix a lot of those problems. Because Monster Hunter used to be borderline unplayable, because it was just a mess of old systems that don't make any sense, and terrible controls. I did play a little bit of the old games, for context. And even whenever World was about to come out, a lot of the older fans were just vehemently opposed to the idea of it improving in any way. And World basically knocked it out of the park in terms of improving the game without actually disrupting the core appeal of what the game was to veterans, in addition to creating appeal for new players. So it very much so lucked out with that, and didn't really shake the boat in any meaningful way. They did a very good job of that. Animal Crossing will probably never have that actually happen. I'm not really sure. Apparently this game, I've heard people say, oh, this game fixes all those problems. There won't be any problems like that, just give it a try. But I've waited, and I keep seeing people complaining about the exact same things that I've been talking about, so My suspicion was this is just fans being full of shit and just talking out of their asses because they want you to play the thing that they're obsessed with. And it turns out that's exactly what it was. It's the same thing that happens every time one of these games comes out. I say I don't want to play it for this reason, they tell me to shut up and get angry at me because blah 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 blah, and then I end up being right anyways, because they were just being emotional and fanboys without realizing it. Happens every single time. Lovely. So this is the reason why I also don't really talk about the games, is because just talking about it also ends up offending people. And also why I decided to wait a little bit on making this video, because otherwise people would still be in the honeymoon phase and wouldn't be willing to even entertain the idea that the game has any flaws. So you get the idea. The reason why I was going to talk a little bit about Doom Eternal is because of this notion that games can, like, again, there's nothing wrong with Animal Crossing. And I'm not saying to change the game. Let it remain exactly as it is. Because it is just a very different kind of game that I personally do not want to play. And that's it. And this is my experience with Doom Eternal as well. Doom Eternal has a very specific gameplay loop. It is very well designed. Eternal is a very well designed game. It very much is a sort of DMC to the general Doom experience. And that you set people on fire, you get back armor. You lose health constantly, but you get health back by killing what are essentially walking health vials that spawn indefinitely. You run out of ammo constantly. Like, you'll run out of ammo almost immediately after starting a fight, but you have indefinite uses of the chainsaw, and the chainsaw gives you ammo. So there is a very defined loop to the gameplay in Doom Eternal. And the problem I have with Doom Eternal is that it is a very constrictive, defined gameplay loop that you cannot escape. There are no other ways of playing Doom Eternal. Whenever you play Doom Eternal, you absolutely will play the game that specific way. There's a term for that, and it is, if I can remember, objective? No. Well, this would have worked better. It's one of those things where I think about it all the time, and then I forget about it for like 9 hours, and then it comes back to me later. I don't think it's objective-based design, or directive-based design, or whatever. Solution. Yes. It is solution-driven design. That's what it is. My memory's been getting worse and worse as I've gotten older, which is why that keeps happening. It is a... What did I just say it was? Solution-driven design. See? That's how bad it is. With solution-driven design, there is a defined way to play this character, or to play this game, or to use this specific weapon. And if you watch a pro at whatever game it is play using that character or that weapon or whatever, it will look exactly the same as all the other professionals. There are no styles in between those two things, and you can make arguments about things inevitably reach a defined conclusion in terms of the best way to use something, blah, blah, blah. But in terms of its design, it's just solution-driven. Like, there is a way to play this thing, and it's a matter of the player figuring out what that solution happens to be. And I guess there isn't a term for the opposite of a solution-driven design, but it's just more open-driven design, or creative-driven design, I suppose, where the design is more about giving the player lots of tools to do whatever they want to. And Animal Crossing, in its own way, has its own sort of solution-driven design, but it's not mechanical or anything. It's just a matter of, like, say, in Animal Crossing, one of the things I would like to do, and a lot of people like to do, is to make themed villages or towns or whatever, where you go there and, like, it's all dog people, or it's all characters that are goths or something. You know, in Animal Crossing has a lot of characters, and you could definitely do that. But you aren't allowed to have control over that element. So as a result, doing things like that would require you to chase out other villagers, or to very closely vet whoever comes in, and to very carefully regulate who stays there. And if you ever stop playing, there's a chance that the characters that you like being there might end up leaving the village because you didn't play the game enough, or just Animal Crossing has all sorts of issues like that because you are being looped into this sort of FOMO mentality of you need to be playing the game every day during this specific time frame, and you need to keep at it all the time. And if you don't come back for a while, the characters will even lecture you on the fact that you haven't been playing. So to me, Animal Crossing has always been an incredibly stressful game for that reason. And it's always confused me whenever people say that it's a very relaxing game. And vice versa. People will say the same thing about the mentality of people that are like me whenever they play Animal Crossing. Because with me, I want there to be an open sandbox that I can play in. Whereas it seems like other people just want to be told what to do. And a lot of people are like that. They just want to be given a general directive that is very easily obtainable. Like that's the appeal of, I guess, the paying off your debts in Animal Crossing. Is that, sure, you're given a big number to pay off, but there's no interest. You don't have to worry about any aspect of it. You can just do it whenever you want to. So it's something that's easily obtainable, but it's still a goal that you're being given and you're being told, do this. And a lot of people appreciate that about games, whenever there's just a very clear, defined thing to do, and you just do it, and it's over with. With me, I'm the exact opposite. I don't want to be told to do anything. I want there to just be stuff lying everywhere, and I can use my creativity or what have you to just go ape shit and just do whatever I want to. So you can see why I also did not really care for Doom Eternal, because it has that same mentality of, this is the way you will absolutely play Doom Eternal. And if you do not play Doom Eternal this way, you will not be playing the game. I actually streamed the game. Here we have the final picture as well. Whenever I found myself playing the game on stream, at first I was enjoying myself, and the difficulty I never really noticed the difficulty, but I did find myself just wanting to screw around. Like I wanted to just stay at a distance and snipe enemies for the hell of it. Or like I just wanted to play with the guns. I kept getting new guns and new things to play with. But the game is so aggressive about keeping you inside that very tight loop of exact A-B solutions to every element of the game that it never allowed me to do that. And that just got on my nerves to the point that I just didn't want to play the game anymore. And I find, like, this is what I wanted the video to actually be about, is this core idea of solution-driven design versus creative, open-ended design. Of being able to do what you want versus being told the exact thing that you want to do that is easily obtainable if you have the skill to do so. It's learning a system for solution-driven design and perfecting it versus interacting with a system that is more creative-driven and non-solution-driven. So that's something that I think about a lot, and these two games together have maybe think about this a little bit more than I have recently. So that's what I would like you guys to also think about in the comments below. Sorry if I stepped on toes about Animal Crossing. I always do this when it comes to Animal Crossing, which is why I try not to talk about things of that nature. I've learned my lesson about talking about things that people enjoy. Don't talk about things that people enjoy if you have nothing... The expression of, if you have nothing good to say, don't say it. It doesn't just mean be nice to other people. It also means people get really defensive about things. Alright, so hopefully people can enjoy the aspects of design that I was talking about, not so much me bitching about not being able to create my weird furry harem village for people to enter and be weirded out by so that I could have a chuckle at their expense. Because that's what it comes back to, isn't it? Alright, sorry. Let me know what you guys think in the comments, and I'll try to have more co-commentary things in the future, since you guys seem to respond positively to that. The issue is always just being able to organize them. So, see you guys next time.